All right, I will call to order this meeting of the Easthampton Planning Board for Tuesday, September 17th, 2019. Is there anyone here to speak to something that is not on the agenda? All right, moving right along. A&R for H.M. Schaefer Enterprises, combining 2 lots.
Evening.
Mark, welcome.
Want me to get it since I'm
Hello.
I'll bring it over.
This is one of the final steps of the expansion to adhesive applications on O'Neill Street.
Yep.
Excuse me. So what is being done is that parcel 1-1, which is an acre, just over an acre of land, is being combined with 41, and that allows for required setback requirements to the property line for their building addition.
Okay.
Still allows
Plenty of frontage here.
still plenty of frontage, lots of area with
Yeah.
remaining piece that is with chem metal
Yep.
for that. It only requires 140 feet of frontage anyway, so there's
Tell me
a
when you're
large
ready.
parcel.
Go for it, Jim.
A motion to endorse the A&R for the applicant 51 Ferry Street, H.M. Schaefer Enterprises.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed,
Aye.
abstaining, all right.
You want me to bring this over or sign them here?
Sign right here. But I will proceed to the next matter. If you don't mind me signing, Mark, while we
Nope.
listen to other people
Nope.
talk. All right. Next item on the agenda, continued public hearing for Beacon Solar LLC. Gentlemen, good evening.
Good evening. Well, we don't have much to present today. Just go through the letter? Yeah.
Yeah, please.
Should I hand it over to you, or do you want me to go over the letter?
I think you can do the intro.
Okay, cool. Sounds good. So this is a continuance of the previous meeting. We had some back and forth with Jeff going over the decom bond, the letter, and the trail access, which we've resolved. We've provided a letter to the board. I believe Jet has transmitted that to you a few days ago,
Yep.
that you have in your hand now. I don't know if it incorporates the latest round of revisions from the city attorney.
I would, yeah, so it's still dated September 11th, but the version in front of the board has the recommended revisions from the city attorney incorporated.
Is that what's in bold?
No, it wasn't redlined, and to be perfectly honest, there was not a lot. of
No,
things that,
no. It was a few minor things. Nothing major really.
Okay.
I
All
agree.
right. I can say that I read it. It looks good to me. I have no particular concerns with it. I mean, it's not what we had hoped for initially with rail trail access. There was a discussion about it, but I think this is a good alternative being proposed. I think it's beneficial for the community, and it sits well with me.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. It's, I think it's a reasonable endpoint. I think you guys made a good effort with the landowner.
Okay.
One thing that we did discuss, the board members and the applicant have a draft decision to review, but there is a proposed condition that would, it's number 3, but it would be prior to the issuance of a building permit, the applicant and/or property owner shall file an educational access agreement substantially in accordance with the version dated September 11th, which shall ensure that the city and/or its partners can access the property as outlined therein during the duration of the lease and extensions thereto. So it's just
So you're saying this is a draft, it's not signed, it's not, I mean.
Well,
it's
when I was writing the decision last night, we didn't have the final version because I hadn't heard from the city attorney until this afternoon. So now we would consider this the final version. So that even that condition could be wordsmith to be
Okay.
just in the present tense, I guess. So we're in a lot of
Do
wordsmithing
we need a
to do.
signed one?
I don't think it needs to be a condition if we have it.
Right. Well, I think we want it as a condition that it gets filed with the Registry of Deeds.
Okay.
I think that was the gist of that
That's
condition.
fair.
So.
Yeah, so I think the only twitch here is
It
to,
doesn't say that in here.
It doesn't.
no, yeah, that would be the only change, is to file it in the Registry of Deeds.
Doesn't say that.
It doesn't say anything about the Registry of Deeds.
Okay. That was.
It just says shall file.
Okay.
So are we saying we want to add the Registry of Deeds
Yeah.
into the?
Yeah, we
Yeah.
want it
condition?
recorded.
Yeah.
So maintain it as prior to the issuance of a building permit, the applicant has,
Shall record.
Shall file
Or
with the
shall-
registry.
okay,
Yep. And it will just be the educational access agreement dated September 11th.
okay.
Yeah. We're gonna have a lot of wordsmithing to do tonight. It's midnight.
Okay.
And then throughout there's a couple findings that articulate the purpose and how this aligns with the goals of the city for open space and the references to the previous discussion, so.
Okay, anything else?
We had a few other minor comments. We can go over those now if you want.
Sure.
So on page 4, the fourth point, in addition, the battery storage areas will be enclosed by fencing to further reduce any noise generated. I believe that was a typo.
Yep.
So we're gonna remove that.
That sentence?
Yep.
Yeah.
And then I had a quick conversation with Jeff just before the meeting about, on page 7, condition number 2, regarding the financial surety. Appreciate it, leaving it open. Whether it's cash or bond is going to be determined in the short future. I believe while I was away, Ethan Winter and Brad had formulated our view that a bond would be more preferable. Just because that capital that we put in cash we can't allocate it to other development for solar farms. So we would really appreciate if it could be a bond. It's the same amount, it's just paid over time.
I know we discussed this at the last meeting.
Okay,
I don't have an issue with that.
okay,
I know
great.
that the city kind of wanted it to be cash, you know, it's preferable. Was there any comments or anything added, Jeff, that you're aware of?
No, I mean, I think, the reference is the city attorney email from August 27th, which we reviewed last time. This is extremely similar to the last opinion that the board got for the previous solar project. It suggests that the city attorney has been seeing a lot of towns requiring cash instead of a bond. But it doesn't say that it has to be. So I think the way the condition ended up last time was that it's a form that's acceptable to the city attorney, and then it comes to the planning
Comes
board
back to us.
for final submission. But I think the understanding is that we're not necessarily requiring it to be cash.
That's fine with me.
Right, and that's the
Maintaining that
same
language.
reflection, that's reflected in the condition, that was the same condition applied to the most recent other.
On the amount of the surety, I can't tell if there's a contradiction here between the two sections. It looks like on page 5, where we have the finding about it, that last sentence of 7386 is based on the proposed 93,895 surety. Adding 125% would be a $10,432 increase.
Yeah.
But then on page 7, it looks like the 93,895 is after the 125% increase.
Yep.
you're not really adding 125%.
No, it's 125% of the, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so I think on page 5, it should be 83,463.
Instead of 93.
Yeah.
Sure. Yep.
Although I get a different number than that.
Do you? So the estimated amount submitted was 83,463.
Yeah.
83,463.
Yep.
Times 1.25.
I get 104,328.
Verifying.
$104,000.
Yeah. And 75 cents.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah.
What you got?
Yes.
104,328.75.
Yes.
Okay.
We all have calendars or calculators.
Yep.
That's how you ended up with the 10,432. That should be 104.
Yeah.
Oh, got it. Yeah,
Yep.
it's a typo. All right.
Okay.
Oh, all right. Good
But
catch.
then the total amount,
So the total amount is the 104,328.75.
and that's the 25. That's 125% increase over the estimate.
Yes.
Okay. That's what we want. That's the idea.
Yeah.
That's why it's draft.
Mm-hmm.
You double check just to make sure right there. So we're, that last sentence says based on the proposed 93, adding 125 would be 10. And now it'll say based on the proposed 83,463, adding 125 would be a 104, whatever the.
Just
Right.
it would be a total of
Yeah.
a total bond amount, a total surety amount of $104,382.75.
Yeah. And then on page 7, the amount shall be 104,32
Yep.
instead of 93,895.
Right.
Yep.
Okay. Anything
Good
else?
catch, Jesse. That was a very good catch.
5
minutes to review.
I believe we are all set. Jeff, anything I'm missing?
Just going back to page 4 under emergency services. So
Yeah.
there's a
Oh, yeah.
there's a typo in here. There's just a run-on sentence.
Stream
in
of
there.
consciousness there?
Yeah. Which is, I'm not sure how that got in there, but
I don't know what happened.
the last sentence of that.
We have to quit this.
The last sentence of that finding, though, is the second to last sentence is a condition of this permit requires emergency personnel training to occur prior to operation. So, the applicant asked about that, and it's a carryover from the previous special permits that you've granted for large-scale solar. So, I thought originally that it was in the ordinance, but it's not.
Oh, it's not? Okay.
No, but I do think in this case, the discussions we did have with the fire department is that this is the first array, this is the first commercial solar with a battery storage unit. So I think it would be beneficial for the fire department to be able to see that setup and
Yeah.
understand what it looks like out
I
there
think that'd be
prior
good.
to operations. So
I absolutely see it as beneficial. I mean, showing anyone that might have to respond what's in there and how to get access and what
Yeah.
might be there is a no-brainer. Make that happen.
Great.
Yeah, I mean, I'm good with that. I told Jeff that I'm good with that. If we're able to get the bond, I think that, it's fair.
Okay. Harry, you got a question?
Yeah, when this thing, in 20 years, when this is all done, who actually does the work taking this thing apart? You guys do that? Or do you hire somebody else
Yeah,
to
we do.
take this apart, or what happens?
No, we do.
You guys do that?
Yeah. You mean us as Cypress, like Cypress employees, or do we contract out?
Yeah.
No, we usually contract out for that. So
You
it's under
contract out?
Cypress is contracting the work.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, I think I asked somebody how many of these solar farms they put in, and he said something like, I don't know, it was 100 or something in the last 5 or 6 years, or 8 years, whatever
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah.
And if these all come to, in the end, say 20 years from now, they're gonna be awful busy taking these all apart.
Yeah, so not all of the solar farms, I think that's like a big misconception that all the solar farms are going to go offline at the same time. It's not true at all.
If they run right, there's no sense of taking it apart, right?
Pardon?
If it runs good, there's no sense in taking it apart.
Right, right. I mean, we have 20-year contracts, but it doesn't mean that the end of the lifetime of the project is 20 years. So you can go merchant after that. You can sell the energy to another entity.
Right, what would happen? You have a contract with Gall, is that right?
Yes?
What happens if the Gall family decides not to renew your contract? Then what happens?
Oh, well, the contract that we have goes on until a certain period. We allow for a buffer. It's 40 years.
40 years?
So yeah, it's more than what we need. But so just to tell you that we're forecasting a life beyond the 20 years of the contract. So it could be, we can secure, say, offtake with Starbucks. I'm just, just for the purpose of the argument. And that PPA could be 5 years. But then the other farm that we have in Ludlow could be a PPA for 10 years. So one could live for 35 years, the other for 20 years, 25 years. So I don't think there's going to be a problem with like supply and demand.
That's it.
Good. Anybody else have any other questions?
Nope.
Anybody from the public? Any comments or questions at this point? Anything else you guys want to add?
I'll say.
Okay.
Read us in.
So let's go through our findings and conditions. I have a sore throat that should just about finish me off. So, specific findings. 7332. This is at the bottom of page 3 for everyone following along at home. Permit shall be granted unless the permit granting authority finds in writing that there is substantial evidence that A, the specific site is not an appropriate location for such use, B, a nuisance is expected to be created by the use, and C, adequate and appropriate facilities will be not provided for the proper operation and maintenance of the use. Finding is the proposal meets the provision based on the following. The specific mitigation measures, vinyl coated fence and installation of larger trees, reduce the visibility of solar panels from Maxine Circle. The vegetated border along the northwest and south property lines are not disturbed, and the construction staging area contains temporary screening from the adjacent Lathrop community to the north. Only a portion of the south array will be visible from Florence Road. The project will provide an educational access agreement to allow the city to conduct facilitated public access over the solar lease area. The closest location of any inverters and/or battery storage to a residence is approximately 800 feet, which is a substantial distance. And the proposal was granted in order of conditions from the Conservation Commission on August 26, 2019. Good. 7351, emergency services. Finding is that the applicant has provided an emergency response plan, and a condition of this permit requires an emergency personnel training to occur prior to operations. The fire department letter dated June 27, 2019 indicated that they did not have any concerns related to the project. 7353, land clearing, soil erosion, and habitat impacts. The project includes a relatively small area of tree removal. Other site preparation within buffer areas was reviewed and approved by the Conservation Commission, and erosion control shall be installed prior to site work.
I had a question here. From the last meeting, is that when the information about the fence, the bottom of the fence being raised, was that established at 10 inches?
Yes.
And it was intended
That's
to.
in the latest plans.
Okay, and then it's intended to allow for smaller wildlife. So I think
We should
adding
add a
reference-
finding about
yeah,
the
just
height of the
adding it in
fence
here. Yeah. So
off the ground to allow for free movement of animals through the area.
Yep.
7355, natural buffer for large solar projects. The approved landscape plan depicts an area along the east property line of the south array where a mix of evergreen and deciduous trees will be planted. This area corresponds to the most visible portion of the arrays from Maxine Circle. A small area across the two off. Yep, what do you got, Jim?
Well, you're on 7355, am I right?
Yes.
Natural buffer, okay. Well, it's just what you're reading is not the text I have.
Oh.
Really?
Yeah, it's okay, keep going, I like yours better.
A small area along the north property line within the 50-foot setback will be located within the limit of work. Given that the area is not abutting any residential units within the Lathrop community, the planning board waives the 50-foot setback in this relatively small area.
Okay.
7384, setback waiver. So I'm skipping the bylaw language.
Yep.
That might be weird.
I think that's what it was, that's exactly.
Finding is the setback waiver associated with the north property line includes a relatively small
Yep.
small amount of encroachment by the proposed limit of work. The planning board finds that because the area is not in the vicinity of any residential units and the amount of encroachment is minimal, the board waives the setback as shown on the approved plans. 7386, financial surety. The email from the city attorney dated August 27th, 2019 indicates concern about the potential for salvaged materials value to be diminished due to a potential influx of materials should multiple arrays undergo decommissioning around the same time. The planning board has determined that this potential lower value creates a reasonable justification to increase the surety amount to the maximum 125% allowed under the ordinance. Based on the proposed $83,463 surety, 125% would be $104,328.75.
Yep.
All right, moving on to our special permit findings. Number one, conformance with the provisions of the ordinances of the City of Easthampton, the general laws of Massachusetts, and all applicable rules and regulations of state and federal agencies. Finding is, the planning board finds that the proposal is anticipated to be part of the Commonwealth's SMART program. Any substantial changes to the project shall be reviewed by the planning board pursuant to the conditions herein. 2, protection of city amenities and abutting properties through the minimizing of any detrimental or offensive uses or destruction of unique or important natural, scenic, or historic features on the site. Planning board finds, in support of the city's goal of connecting open space properties and increasing public trail access, as outlined in the city planner memo dated September 3rd, 2019, the applicant and property owner have entered into an educational access agreement to allow the city to organize and facilitate public access in accordance with the conditions of the agreement dated September 11th, 2019. Said agreement shall be filed with the Registry of Deeds by the applicant and/or property owner prior to the issuance of a building permit for the project. The planning board finds that the original concept of trail access over the solar lease area would be more desirable, but is satisfied with the compromise educational access agreement given the project's characteristics of minimizing tree clearing and minimal waivers from the required vegetated setback. You just need an apostrophe in projects there, Jeff, that's it. 3, minimization of traffic and safety impacts of the proposed development on adjacent highways or roads and maximizing the convenience and safety of vehicular and pedestrian movement within the site. The proposal does not affect any unique natural or scenic features. The planning board finds that the project will include significant vehicular movement during, I don't think that sentence about the proposal is supposed to be in there, is that right, Jeff? That last italicized
Proposal
one?
does not affect any unique natural or scenic features.
Is that part of the bylaw, or
Because
is that
that's
just?
traffic and safety.
The,
You're right, that doesn't seem to blend well.
it may just, we may have merged two proposed findings together.
Oh,
there.
okay.
I can clarify in a moment, but if you want to keep going and then I'll.
Okay, the planning board finds that the project will include significant vehicular movements during construction. A construction entrance will be provided. Once operational, the project will result in minimal traffic as it will only be accessed occasionally for maintenance purposes. The project includes an emergency personnel training prior to operations. Only a portion of the south array will be visible from Florence Road, and specific measures have been proposed to reduce the visual impact of the project from the residences on Maxine Circle. The proposal protects unique scenic and natural features by providing the city with an opportunity to bring school groups and other city partners to the property for educational tours. The planning board finds that permanent trail access across the property remains desirable. I guess your natural scenic features did fit in there. Number 4, adequacy of methods of disposal of sewage and refuse and the drainage of surface and subsurface water, and adequate means of protecting wetlands, watersheds, aquifers, and well areas. Planning board finds that tree removal for the project is minimal and site preparation within buffer areas was reviewed and approved by the Conservation Commission. The Conservation Commission issued an order of conditions on September 2nd, 2019.
I think that date's August 26th. I think I.
Oh yeah, we just had that
Yep.
before, right? Okay. 5, mitigation of adverse impacts on the city's resources, including the effect on the city's water supply and distribution systems, sewage collection and treatment systems, fire protection, and streets. The project includes an upgraded access road suitable to support an emergency vehicle. In addition, an emergency personnel training is required prior to operations. 6, provisions for the off-street loading and unloading vehicles incidental to the normal operation of the establishment, parking, lighting, and internal traffic control, The project does not require any parking or special elements after construction, as future access will be limited to occasional maintenance vehicles. There is no external lighting associated with the project. 7, applicant's efforts to integrate the development into the existing landscape through design features such as vegetative buffers and retention of open space or agricultural land. The project includes the installation of specific plantings and a screened construction fence to provide temporary and permanent screening. The project maintains the required 50-foot vegetative buffer, except for a relatively small area along the north property line. In support of the city's open space and recreation goals, the applicant and property owner have granted the city an educational access agreement to allow for the city to provide guided public access over the solar lease area.
Get rid of 4,
What's that?
instead of to allow for the city, just to allow the city.
To allow, yeah, we can cross that 4 out. 8, minimization of the area over which existing vegetation is to be removed. Where tree removal is required, special attention is to be given to the planting of replacement trees. Planning board finds the project minimizes the removal of trees to the maximum extent possible and includes the installation of evergreen shrubs and 6 larger trees to mitigate the view of the project as shown in the approved landscape plan. Number 9, the consistency of the development with respect to setback, area, placement of parking, architectural style, and landscaping of the surrounding buildings and development. Planning board finds the proposed project complies with the 50-foot vegetative buffer, except for a small area, and that only a portion of the southern array will be visible from Florence Road and Maxine Circle. Number 10, adequacy of the measures to prevent pollution of surface or groundwater, to minimize erosion and sedimentation, and to minimize changes in groundwater levels, increased runoff, and potential for flooding. The project has been reviewed and approved by the Conservation Commission and shall be operated and maintained in accordance with the order of conditions voted on August 26, 2019. Number 11, adequacy of the methods to ensure the use will not constitute a nuisance by reason of unacceptable level of air or water pollution, excessive noise, or visually flagrant structures and accessories. The project includes minimal increase to impervious surfaces and minimal roadway upgrades. The 2 arrays are generally located in existing fields and do not require significant tree removal. Planning board finds that the addition of landscape plantings on the east side of the project will mitigate some of the visual impacts. The location of all battery storage and inverters is substantially set back from any residences. Proposed conditions in this draft. So, number 1, any solar energy facility which has reached the end of its useful life or has been abandoned shall be removed. When the solar energy facility is scheduled to be decommissioned, the applicant shall notify the city by certified mail of the proposed date of discontinued operations and plans for removal. The owner-operator shall physically remove the solar facility no more than 150 days after the date of discontinued operations. At the time of removal, the solar facility site shall be graded and seeded. More specifically, decommissioning shall consist of A, physical removal of all solar structures, equipment, security barriers, and transmission lines from the site. B, disposal of all solid and hazardous waste in accordance with local and state waste disposal regulations. C, stabilization or revegetation of the site as necessary to minimize erosion. The permit granting authority may allow the owner to leave landscaping or designated below-grade foundations in order to minimize erosion and disruption to the vegetation. 2, prior to the issuance of a building permit, the applicant shall provide the city with a financial surety to cover the cost of decommissioning in the event the lessee or owner fails to perform and the city must remove the project or remediate the site. The amount shall be $104,328.75 pursuant to section 7386 of the zoning ordinance. Said surety amount shall be subject to an increase of 2% per year with annual interest compounding for the life.
Compounding annually.
I think this is taken from the bylaw. We probably just need to figure out.
Yeah.
But the word interest should be in there. The surety may be established through payments over time from the lessee to the owner of the project site and shall be fully funded within 10 years. Any documents in the agreements shall be in a form satisfactory to city attorney and then be submitted to the planning board at a public meeting prior to the issuance of a building permit for this project. The
I
scope
have
and
a question here, if
Yeah.
you don't mind. This doesn't really make sense to me. Payments over time from the lessee to the owner of the project site and shall be fully funded within 10 years.
Yeah, why are they paying to the project owner or the project
We are
site?
both the lessee and the project owner. Should that be from the lessee or the project owner to the town? over a period of 10 years.
It means or instead of to, from the lessee or the owner of the project site. So it's coming from either of those sources.
Got it.
I think
Yeah.
it should be an or.
Yeah.
Yeah, that works. Yeah.
Is that right?
Keep looking something up. I believe that the condition got created for the last solar project in response to the city attorney's comments. So
Okay.
if it's a typo and should be or, and that makes sense, then it would be substantially the same language as previously used, but clearer.
Certainly makes more sense as an or.
Okay. The scope and activities included in the decommissioning plan shall be substantially in accordance with the information included in the application packet dated June 18th, 2019. Number 3, prior to the issuance of a building permit, the applicant and/or the property owner shall file with the Registry of Deeds the educational access agreement dated September 11th, 2019, which shall ensure that the city and/or its partners can access the property as outlined therein during the duration of the lease and extensions thereto. Number 4, prior to commencing land clearing and/or tree removal activity, the applicant shall notify the planning department and building department in writing a minimum of 5 days in advance and submit documentation of any proposed or contemplated changes to the approved vegetation plan. Number 5, tree removal associated with this project shall be done strictly in accordance with the proposed vegetation plans, last revised on November 26, 2019? No, 18?
Yeah, I think,
It's been revised since then.
well, I
This
think
hasn't
that
taken that
this,
long.
I think this entire condition can be struck. The
Oh, is this
tree-
from the last
Yep,
one?
the tree removal in this project is
Yeah.
within the project site and wasn't a subject of
Yep.
Agreed.
any issues, so I think we've.
We'll take
proposed
that out, that's
Yep.
good. Okay, 6,
Shifting all numbers up one.
right. Tree planting screening associated with this project shall be done in accordance with the approved landscape plan, last revised on August 27th, 2019. Specifically, this shall include plantings as shown and described along the east property line adjacent to Maxine Circle. In addition, a construction fence in accordance with the specifications submitted shall be installed around the staging area near the north property line. All screening, plantings, and fence shall be installed prior to the commencement of any site work associated with the project.
Yeah, I have a comment here.
Yep.
In our landscaping plan, we said that we would, like, in good faith, plant the trees if the season allowed it, but prior to construction. But if the season didn't allow it, we would start construction and then plant when the season would allow it.
It
Didn't the
doesn't
tree-
make much sense to plant trees in the winter.
No, didn't we just do this where we had the language about if they need to change their schedule? Is that a different one?
Now, the only difference with the one that you're talking about was associated with the certificate of occupancy,
Oh, right.
because this doesn't, well, it may get a certificate of occupancy, we're not really actually sure, but,
Right.
Or at the earliest seasonal opportunity.
I mean,
That seems-
I think it's fine to discuss this and give some potential flexibility. The other project, which is our primary basis of comparison at the moment, but had a construction staging area and a lot of vehicular movements
Right.
next to houses that the screening was going to be there to
Yeah.
screen during construction activities.
Right,
Whereas-
well, like the fencing on the staging area, obviously it doesn't matter. I mean, that should be easy to put in.
Whatever season.
And I think
Whatever.
that
We're
makes
talking
sense
about
because you're
plantings.
putting it in to
Right.
screen the
Right.
construction staging area. So that should be in place.
Yeah, I mean, the fencing, again, is not an issue at all, and we're gonna have that fence also by Maxine Circle with the mesh that's
Yeah.
gonna cover that. So at least, there's gonna be something, but it's just like, if you want a good vegetative buffer, then we're not, and
Right.
construction usually happens towards the end of the year when we got the green light from the utility, like November, December. It wouldn't make sense to plant, especially with the willows, like it won't take.
I
So.
have a sentence that says something like, plantings may be delayed to the earliest seasonal opportunity.
Well, I think that, like, all fencing shall be installed prior to the commencement of site work. Planting shall be made at the earliest reasonable time or something like that.
Works, yeah. Definitely.
Does that make sense,
separate
Jeff?
Plantings and fence.
Yeah, earliest feasible period of the year or something to that effect, yeah.
Okay, so,
As soon as practicable.
yep.
Practicable. Only lawyers ever use that word. He just revealed his profession there.
Would we be comfortable with saying I want to make sure that it's super clear that that stuff gets done. So as soon as practicable, but prior, I mean, it has to be, I wanted to insert prior to a certificate of occupancy to make sure that there's an end point too.
Okay.
So there's
Yeah,
as
that
soon
makes
as
sense.
possible, but I want to make sure that this is something that,
That actually gets done.
yes.
Maybe you just do that then.
Maybe we
All
could just do
screening fence shall be installed prior to the commencement of any site work associated with the project. All screening plantings shall be installed prior to the certificate of occupancy. And
Yeah,
just
but
do
if they
separate.
can do it earlier than that, we'd like them to do the plant, I mean, if it's spring,
Right.
I mean, that's,
I think we want to encourage it to be done as soon as practicable, because you don't want to miss a whole season.
Oh, for sure,
planting,
yeah. And
And then run into the fall when you're running off to get your CO, and then haven't had that planted either. So
right,
okay.
I think that works. Need me to wait?
So the sentence is, in addition, a construction fence in accordance with the specs submitted shall be installed around the staging area north of the property line prior to the commencement of any site work associated with the project. All screening and or plantings, all plantings shall be installed as soon as practicable, but that's what I was struggling with, but prior to a
But,
certificate
yeah,
of occupancy, but
yeah.
there might be another word that needs to get inserted there to make that
As soon
work.
as practicable and prior to the granting of a certificate of
Yeah,
occupancy.
okay.
Okay, 7, prior to the issuance of a certificate of occupancy, the applicant shall have coordinated and held an emergency personnel training with applicable city officials. Number 8, the project shall comply with the order of conditions issued by the Conservation Commission on August 26, 2019, Mass DEP file number 151-304. Any substantial changes to that approval shall be presented to the planning board for a determination whether the changes are significant enough to require modification of this special permit. Number 9, the applicant shall maintain the solar energy facility in good condition. Maintenance shall include, but not be limited to, painting, structural repairs, and integrity of security measures. Site access shall be maintained to a level acceptable to the fire chief and emergency medical services. The project owner shall be responsible for the cost of maintaining the solar energy facility and any access roads, and the cost of repairing any damage occurring as a result of operation and construction. 10, all material modifications to a solar energy facility made after the issuance of the permit shall require approval by the permit granting authority as provided in this section. 11, the applicant or facility owner shall maintain a phone number and identify a responsible person for the public to contact with inquiries and complaints through the life of the project. Said contact and any subsequent changes in information shall be filed and kept with the project file in the city clerk's office. Any planning board members with any comments or questions?
None.
Applicant, any comments or questions about any of that?
no,
Anybody from the public with comments or questions? All right.
When would that phone number be posted? They could call.
It's got to be kept on file in the city clerk's office.
Well, if somebody has a complaint out there, how would they get the phone number? You gotta call.
Barbara.
You go to the clerk and ask, who do I contact at the...
All right.
Yes.
There's also a project sign.
There's a sign on site that has contact.
Oh, with the
information.
number on it?
Contact with the phone.
Great.
I can't imagine anything being
Mr. Chair.
that way.
Please.
I motion to approve the special permit for Beacon Solar LLC, 50 Florence Road.
I'll second that.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining? All right. Gentlemen, thank you.
great, thank you so much, appreciate it.
Best of luck. Seems strange to get out of here so early. Should we just like hang out for another hour and a half?
No.
You guys have plans?
I motion to adjourn.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.